Good morning. We're the Vietnam veterans from Jackson, Michigan. We're Chapter 109. We've been doing this presentation for now 5 years, 5 school years. We're over 23,000 students that we've talked to in 5 years. We're over 7,000 just for this school year alone. You're next to the last. We have another school tomorrow, so we are very busy with this. We start out every presentation exactly the same way. We ask you to stand and help us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We're going to talk to you about what the colors mean on the flag. Each color signifies something. The white signifies purity and innocence. The red signifies hardness and valor. The blue signifies vigilance, perseverance, and justice. The star is a symbol of the heavens and a divine goal to which man has aspired from memorial. The stripe is symbolic of the rays of light emanating from the sun. Now, during our times when we first started this, we had the opportunity to learn what the folds of the flag mean. We do a lot of military flag foldings, plus we do a lot of flag foldings for people that get new flag poles from whatever. But we do it the way the military does it. You'll see them doing a lot of creasing, looking, and getting it ready to be folded. This is how we do it every time. We do not talk when we're doing the flag folding. We just practice to make sure we know what we're doing here. And there is a meaning for each fold of the flags of the 13 folds. The first fold of our flag is a symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of our belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veterans departing our ranks who gave a portion of their lives in defense of our country and to attain peace throughout the world. The fourth fold represents our weaker nature. We turn to God in times of peace as well as in times of war for divine guidance. The fifth fold is made as a tribute to our country. To paraphrase Stephen Decatur, our country in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but it's still our country, right or wrong. Sixth fold represents where our hearts lie. It is with our hearts that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. The seventh fold is made in tribute to our armed forces. It is these brave men and women who protect our country against her enemies, foreign and domestic. The eighth fold is honor of mothers, for whom the flag flies on Mother's Day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood. The faith, love, loyalty, and devotion of women help to mold the character of countless men and women who have made this nation great. The 10th fold is a tribute to fathers. They too have given their sons and daughters for the defense of our country. The 11th fold represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon, glorifying the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies the God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. The 13th fold brings the stars upmost, reminding us of our nation's motto, "In God we trust." Now, during a folding, a military folding, you're going to see them checking the flag. They will salute the flag several times. And then we'll end up by presenting the flag right here, like we would if we were presenting it to a family member. And at the end of that, I will ask you to stand for the playing of taps. So what would happen now is we would go outside and do a 21-gun salute. Obviously, this is a school system, so we can't. You're going to keep watching these guys salute as they do this. Whenever you're ready, would you please stand for taps? All you have to do is stand up. Thank you. You may be seated. I need to hang on. Don't go anywhere yet. I want you to look at this flag if you can. You see on the stick, it's got dirt on it. About 5 years ago, we started putting flags on Roseland Cemetery. We put 1,800 flags out there a week ago. Well, we found out about 3 or 4 years ago, my granddaughter asked me, what happens to those flags, Grandpa? I said, I have no idea. Well, a week after Memorial Day, they pulled them out and they threw them all in a big pile in a garage. So I found that to be not satisfactory to me, let alone anybody else. So we now go out and get them, and we repurpose these flags. They're special flags because every one of them with the dirt flew over a veteran's grave. We'd like to present that to you, along with, this tells you about the folds, and this flag bracelet for helping us. So coming up here wasn't so bad after all. Thank you. Give her a hand for coming up here. Okay, now we're going to do, and don't laugh real loud, okay? But we're going to introduce ourselves. You're going to see pictures roll behind us as we're talking. And when we do that, that's when we don't want you laughing, but you might. You'll see some pictures we skip. That's because our team is really about 18 guys, and we only got part of them here. Am I in a way? That picture up there is me, believe it or not. About 50 years ago, and about 110 pounds ago. And my hair was not this color then. That's what 3 sons did to me. But I was in the United States Navy from 1968 to 1972. I served in Vietnam in 1970, attached to a supply division. This is what I did. I drove an Army truck. Yes, I was in the Navy. But when they needed bodies, they grabbed any body they could. And I was one of them that drove the trucks to different fire bases throughout Vietnam. After that, I went aboard a destroyer. This is a calm sea. We're out to sea. If it was a rough sea, sometimes the water would go over the top of the signal bridge. It's a very, very small ship, one of the smallest in the United States Navy. It holds about 130, 140 guys, so it's very cozy. Good. This is what we call the berthing compartment. This berthing compartment is where we slept. 12 guys slept in here. All your material, your clothes and whatever were stored underneath the bunks in those little tiny lockers. I slept on the top left side. To turn over, I had to get out, because if I tried to roll over, my shoulder would hit the pipes and the ductwork above my head. The chains served 2 purposes. One, to keep you in when a ship was rolling like this at night, and the other thing was so you could fold them up like they are on the right side. Now, you really wanted to make a mistake. Forget something in your locker and it's the middle of the night and you have to go on watch. You have to wake everybody up above your locker so you can get into it. Guaranteed the next day you would never forget that again. They would tell you about it. Go ahead. This is where we ate. It's called a mess deck. If you look real close on the edge there, you have a ledge. It's about 2 or 3 inches high. That was to keep the food on the table so you didn't end up with it all on the floor. This also doubled as our movie place. We'd just hang a sheet up and watch the movie go like this. This is the library, or better known as the restroom. You have no modesty when you're aboard a destroyer. Yeah, everybody sits shoulder to shoulder in this wonderful room called the bathroom. Go ahead. Then I finished out my 4 years on this ship, which was huge. It was 3,000 people. I didn't even know it was moving when it was in the water, but definitely was a place that was a lot better duty than I had the prior 3 years.
Good morning. My name is Dwayne Yannick, and I graduated from East Jackson in 1967. In April, my senior year, I turned 18 and registered for the draft. 2 weeks later, I had to leave school and get a draft physical in Fort Wayne, Detroit, and I was classified 1A. If you are, that means you're going to get drafted. After I graduated, I joined the United States Navy. I went to boot camp in San Diego, California. I went to propulsion and engineering school in Great Lakes, Illinois, and Engineman A school. I went to submarine school in New London, Connecticut, and the next 3 years I spent on a submarine. That was our berthing area. Oh, yeah, it is. That's the only passageway in a submarine, and if you sleep there, everyone moving around the ship walks past your bunk.
My name is David McCabe. I served in the U.S. Air Force, 1969-1973. In 1971, I was stationed at Utapao, Thailand, about 1,000 miles from Vietnam. The Air Force had 7 air bases in Thailand doing missions into Vietnam. My job was to work with explosives, munitions, rockets, everything. Here we are building 500-pound bombs and 750-pound bombs. We did roughly 1,000 bombs a night. They were taken out and loaded onto the B-52s, bombers still in use today for missions over Vietnam. Here you can see these buildings with the silver roofs on them. This is where I lived for 15 months. These guys pick on me. I was Air Force, so I had 3 good meals a day, come home to a nice clean bed every night to sleep in. So they pick on me and join the Air Force.
Good morning. My name is Mike Finch, also known as Doc. I was in the U.S. Navy from 1965 to 1989, had 24 years in, retired as a Chief Hospital Corpsman. I was in Vietnam in 1968-69, right after the Tet Offensive. Over to the right there, you can see the shield that says 3-5. That stands for 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, which is the most highly decorated unit in the Marine Corps. This is our Battalion 8 station. In combat, the lesser wounded would be helicoptered to this area, and we would treat them and send them on to the hospitals in Da Nang. You can see down low there, this was during the monsoon season, constant rain for about 3 months, high humidity. Everything was mud up to your shins, so we used pallets for sidewalks. This is 1st Medical Battalion. The seriously wounded in the field would be helicoptered here, and that would be my job to go out there. I did make house calls, treat the wounded on the field, put them on helicopters and fly them back here. You can see the Quonset huts in the foreground. That's the surgical units. As soon as they would land, there'd be a team to unload the helicopters and run them into the surgery areas. This is the type of helicopter that we use for medevacs in the Marines. This is called a Sea-Knight CH-46. Here you're seeing our troops getting off the helicopter, and once we deplaned, we put the dead and wounded back on, flying back to Da Nang. Here you see us in a village. When we go overseas, we all have to have about 13 immunizations for things such as yellow fever, typhus, typhoid, cholera, malaria, you name it. These kids probably have never had an inoculation in their life. Some of these don't make it out of childhood because they catch these diseases. So in this area, we were finding we had the plague going on, an ancient disease, and we brought kids in and tried to get them inoculated, give them a chance to get through childhood.
Morning. My name is Bob Clear. I was in the U.S. Air Force from 1964 to 1968. My training was, I was in the GIA Squadron, which stood for Ground Electronics Engineering Installation Agency. I was a wire bender. We put all these wires together, 2,424 wires. They could be on the ground. What's that? They could be underground, it could be on conduit, it could be up in the poles. We worked on anything from hardened missile cable to closed circuit television. Anything that had wires in it, a crew would pull it in, and our group would come in and put them together. My first 2 years, as I said, was in the state side, and after that, I volunteered for just about anywhere because I'd never been out of Michigan. And they kept telling me my career field was going to be too critical, that I wouldn't be going anywhere. So went home, got married. 6 months later, I got orders to go overseas. I was stationed, my home base was the Philippines, and from there, I went to Thailand, I went to Vietnam, went to China, went to Guam, we had to be ready to go anywhere in the world within 2 hours. They would put our equipment right inside the C-130s and fly us wherever they needed us, and we'd go in and do our jobs in that regard. I returned from over there with TB in the lungs from Vietnam, and then some 40 years later, through the Agent Orange, had several other issues that popped up as diabetes, neuropathy, pancreatic cancer, and was able to beat most of those. So that was my 4 years in the military.
Good morning, students. My name is John Grzelkowski. I was in the U.S. Navy from 1967 to 1973, so a total of 6 years. Here's a picture of myself here going into boot camp. If you notice, there's a flag up there called Tiger Company. Normally you go into boot camp, you go in with fellows and everybody from all over the whole country. But they had a special program where it was just the guys from Michigan. We went over to Tiger Stadium, marched on the field, and it was recognized, and then we were bused to Great Lakes, Illinois, and I spent the next 3 months in boot camp. After boot camp, I spent the next 1.5 to 2 years going to various schools learning electronics. After my education, I reported to this ship here, the USS Albany. This is a picture of this guided missile cruiser in the island off the island of Malta in the Mediterranean. We were a flagship, which meant we had an admiral aboard. And basically our purpose was to help defend the aircraft carrier. So we would make different deployments, made 3 different deployments from Florida to the Mediterranean, 6 months or 7 months of each. While aboard the ship, I repaired various electronic countermeasures, radars, teletype, communication equipment. Here is a picture of myself on one of my deployments. You notice there, being at sea, you tend to forget to shave, I guess you'd say. So you tend to grow a little hair there. And if you notice there, it looks kind of dark, doesn't it? Kind of black, you know. That look just isn't there, is it now? Don't you think the silver look is much better looking now today? Well, we have a mix thing here, so thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Ray Preer. I was in the United States Army from 1967 to 1969. I was in Vietnam, 1969. My job was to repair helicopters like this one here. This is a UH-1D. And we would come back. The biggest things that we replaced was the main rotor up here. Right about in this area right here, there would be holes in the rotor blades about the size of a silver dollar. And they would put the helicopter in a vibration mode. You've been over potholes, some of our roads. Well, that's kind of what it's like when you get a rotor blade out of balance. Next one. Our job was to carry troops into the landing zone, the LZ we called it. And the Charlie or the North Vietnamese Army would be in these trees. They would be shooting at our helicopters trying to put them down. And we had a machine gunner on this side. We called him a door gunner. And you had a crew chief on the other side. And they'd be, again, shooting at him, trying to put the Huey down because they wanted these M60s that were on these helicopters. Next one. Vietnam was known as a helicopter war. There was 12,000 helicopters in Vietnam of different types. These are the 4 that were used. This one here they called a scout. This one here would go into a zone and he would fly in low just above the trees. He would try and collect gunfire from the enemy. And when he got fire from the enemy, this one here we called a Cobra. He would follow in behind him because he saw where the shots were coming from. And he had rockets and he also had miniguns. And he would go in and blast that area. This one here is a Huey. It had 3 purposes. One, it was used for a gunship, we call it. It had rockets. on here, and it also had miniguns. It could do the same thing as a Cobra, but the Cobra was much faster. It was also used for medevacing the wounded out of the zones, and it was also used to carry troops. This one here is CH-46 and the 47, and it was called a Chinook, is what we called it. And this one here also carried troops into the zone, and it also carried the wounded out. And this one here and this one here, because of the use of them for medevacing, the casualty rate between Vietnam and World War II was dropped considerably. In World War II, there was like 25 helicopters. Korean War, there was like about 47. How many have seen MASH? Have you ever watched MASH? Well, you've seen that type of helicopter. You can only carry 2 at a time on those. And with these, you can get more. And so that's why the casualty rate was down so low in Vietnam that it was in both of those wars together.
Good morning. My name is Paul DeVolpe. I joined the Navy in 1959, and I stayed for over 20 years, retiring in 1980 as a Chief Petty Officer Air Crewman. My specialty was aviation electronics technology. I spent most of my career either as an instructor teaching electronics or as an air crewman flying all over the world. And I started off in a tailhook squadron. My first enlistment was a tailhook squadron stationed down in Jacksonville, Florida. We had about 12 airplanes, A-4D Skyhawks, and we deployed on the aircraft carrier Franklin D. Roosevelt. The Frankie D is a large ship. It's about 3 football fields long, and flight deck is about 100 feet above the waterline. We had a crew of about 5,500, and bad weather didn't bother us too much. There was about 72 aircraft on board, and 7 squadrons, and that's pretty much it there. Next. When I started my flying career, I started flying transport aircraft, C-54 and C-118s, and this is one of the actual aircraft that I did fly in. While in Vietnam, I went there in 1968 until 1969, and although I was working in electronics and electronic shops there in support of the air mission, whenever I could, I took water out to the orphanages. You see me sitting on top of a water truck there. I wound up my career in another squadron, flying A-6 intruders out of the East Coast there. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bill McCormick. I spent 4 years in the Air Force from 1968 to 1972. My first 2 years in the service I spent in Japan. I worked on a business jet. Our job was to take and support the effort that was going on in Vietnam. And from there I went to Grand Forks, North Dakota. I worked on F-106s and F-102s. I worked alert, and it was my job to take and make sure that airplane was ready to go anytime during that 24-hour shift that I was on there. And I had 2 minutes from the time the Claxton went off in my little quarters that I had to get that pilot up in the air. And our main job at that point was to take and guide everything from Minnesota to North Montana. Anybody come across the northern part of the United States. And I was also one of those fortunate guys to be in the Air Force that had a clean bed and 3 square meals every day.
Good morning. My name is Ralph Yard. I served in military from 66 to 68 as a military policeman. When I graduated from military police school, half of us went to Vietnam, half of us went to Alaska. At any given time, you have to remember that we have military personnel stationed all over the world to help us protect our freedom. I was stationed in Alaska. The picture on the right You'll see me as a desk clerk. Am I in your way? Okay. The machine setting on my left there is a typewriter. We didn't have computers at that time. So everything that we did, we had to type out, and we had to put carbon paper in to make copies. And anything that had to be sent by a personal dispatcher or by mail. The other machine sitting next to me is my radio. With that, I had contact between the personnel working in town, the ones on town patrol, the ones at the gate. There were 6,000 MPs stationed in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. While they were there, they served in every capacity, including combat. They were used as tunnel rats, which you'll learn more about later. They were used as guarding bridges, guarding tunnels. They were also used as traffic control. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is John. I was in Vietnam from 1969 to 1970. I was in the Navy, and we were down in the southern part of South Vietnam, which was the rice area of the country, where they grew their major crops. How many of you like rice? All right, it's a good. They used it basically like our potatoes. It's the base food they used. Okay, we're going to have a little history lesson here because we're in school, so we have to have some learning here. So we're going to go on a little trip, and we're going to learn a little bit about Vietnam. To the north, we have China. Who knows what kind of political structure China is? What? Communistic. And they came down and they talked to Ho Chi Minh in North Vietnam, and they convinced North Vietnam that they should also be communistic in their governmental structure. Well, there was a division in the country. The southern part did not want that. And so it caused a division called the demilitarization zone, which is in the center of the country, which is the black line right there in the middle. Now, some of the countries around there, we see China, then we come down to Laos, go over to Thailand, which is where Dave was over there in the Air Force. We get down to Cambodia, which was a neutral country. They did not want to be involved in this skirmish. And then we have Vietnam over here, and you'll see the south part. The main town, capital there was Saigon, which you're familiar with that. One of the things I want you to notice on that is that red line coming down along the left-hand side in Cambodia. That is what they call the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which actually started out as a road up in the north and literally got down to a footpath by the time it got down into the southern part, and they were bringing down supplies, ammunition, weapons, and medical supplies and stuff like that, and turning and going into South Vietnam. This is one of the boats I was on. We had river boats. We had that because they didn't have many roads down there. They had a lot of rivers, water canals. Some of the canals not any wider than one section of this auditorium right here. And we would be going up and down those, patrolling those, kind of like the local police force in the area. But we also carried troops. You know, the boats with the ramps on the front of them? We had boats that we could carry troops. Sometimes we could carry about 150 troops with us, and we would go out and insert them in different areas. On that boat we had, you saw the man in the white shirt. He was a Vietnamese sailor, and he could talk to the people as we were out inspecting them. And this is what the family car looked like as they were going around, and they knew that we were going to inspect them. There were literally hundreds of those boats on the river in the morning. Now, just an example. How many of you ever have taken a foreign language? You've been studying that. So if you go someplace, you can talk to them. We did not have time to study the foreign language before we went. So there are some major problems. If Mr. Wilkinson over here was coming over this way, how many of you know what a landmine field is? You know, if that was a landmine field, and I went like this, what am I telling him? Go back. Well, in Vietnam, if I go like this, that means come here. See where the confusion can come in? And you're going to walk right into the landmine. Okay, in the next picture, This is a typical rural village, very primitive, bare existence out there. The cities were a lot more modern than what this was. Yes, the houses are made out of grass roofs, sticks, and I think they might have Michigan beat on their potholes. But anyway, this is what a typical village looks like. This is a school I visited, and I want you to see a couple things in this school. 3 things, matter of fact. One, I want you to see that the building is not near as nice as the school that you have here. Secondly, they have students in there. And just like you here today, you came to school to learn something, and they are too. Sometimes they couldn't have school because of war activity, but they were there. And the third thing they had was a teacher that cares about them, wants to teach them. So when you get a chance, tell your mom and dad, tell your teachers, your community leaders, just tell them thank you for providing this great place you have for a school. Okay, now we're going to go out into the marketplace. This is a typical scene you would see in the rural area. Because back in that village you didn't see any utility poles or anything or lighting. They do not have electricity, so they did not have any refrigeration. So they would have to just take small pieces of meat and take them home and cook them. Now that man you saw in the white t-shirt a little earlier, I talked to him one day. We were near a village. And I told him, I said, I want to go in town and I want to have some good food. I want to experience the culture. And so he took me into a restaurant. And we were in the restaurant, and I said, you know, while we were waiting, we have a minor problem here. I do not see any knives, forks, and spoons on the table. And he said, well, you wanted to experience the culture, so we can use chopsticks today. So that was kind of fun. So if you ever, how many of you ever used chopsticks? You should practice with them sometime. It's quite a challenge, but it is fun. And then if we have soup or something like that, we would have a spoon. This is what typical kitchen outside the house looked like. It's surprising how good the food was that they would make in these real primitive kitchens that they had. Mr. Wilkinson, what are you doing over there?
Well, you're talking about culture and different things. I'm not getting ready to operate here, by the way. But this is part of culture. This is a cooking sauce. And I got a volunteer. I seen him right over here. Don't turn your head. It's you. Come on down front. You. Yeah, you're a volunteer.
Come on up. He won't hurt you.
I won't do nothing to you. Come on. Come here. You only got to stand here. That's all you got to do. Come on. Stand right beside me here. Do you do any cooking at all? A little bit? I want you to take a smell, a real deep smell of this stuff, and tell me what you think it is, okay? It's from Vietnam. Get ready. Are you ready to take a deep breath? Okay, take a real deep breath. Ooh, what do you mean, ooh? This is called Nuoc Mam. It's rotten fish. They take a layer of fish, whole fish, everything, guts, fins, heads, put it in a crock, layer salt, layer fish, layer salt, layer fish, bury it in the ground in the hot sun. And what ferments and comes to the top is Nuoc Mam. So when you drove down the road, you knew where a Nuoc Mam pot was. Would you eat this stuff? Well, we know one person that eats this. He's strange, and he's strange in many ways. His name is John, the only person in the world I ever known that would even taste this nasty stuff. Go right over here. This young man over here, this old man, is going to present you with a flag for just walking up and smelling this wonderful sauce. Give her a hand. This stuff really is rotten. There you go. The reason I wear the rubber glove is if you get it on your hand, you can't wash it off. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about Vietnam. Vietnam was a very hot place. 9 months out of the year was between 100 and 110 degrees. Humidity about 90%. Very warm. The other 3 months it rained, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained, and you were wet. It was about 90, oh, maybe not 90, about 70 to 80 degrees, but it still was very wet. When we first got to Vietnam, we saw these people walking around with these on their feet. And we thought, boy, is that the funniest thing you've ever seen. These we called Ho Chi Minh sandals. Ho Chi Minh was the dictator of the North. If you look real closely, you'll see that these were made out of a tire. They're actually the tread of a tire. This is the inner tube. And after we laughed at them, we've realized that maybe they were a whole lot smarter than we were. You're going to have to hold this. Government gave us this thing called a jungle boot. This jungle boot had a canvas top, and in the side there's 2 holes. Why in the world would you put holes in a boot so you could walk in water? We joked and teased about the first hole was for the water to get in, and when we stepped down, the water got out. So not a very pleasant experience. They were actually a lot smarter than we were. There's troops going across the river. You can see that if you look really hard, you'll see that it's raining as usual. You can see the drops in the water. But we went across this river. When you get to the other side, you hope you didn't get bit by a snake on the way, but you also get out on the other side, you'd have bloodsuckers about that long hanging on your legs and stuff, because there's a lot of that, because this was the jungle. That's what happens to your feet when they're wet, constantly. It was the biggest problem we had over there. This is called foot rot, or what's the other technical name? Trench foot. This is what happens when your feet are wet. Think about it. You put your hands in dishwater, if you end up doing that, and you hold them in there a long time and you bring them out, they're all wrinkled. Think about your feet being wet constantly. You're walking constantly in the boots. This particular picture, this guy is in big trouble. He should have sought treatment long before they got that bad. He probably had to be heloed out to get his feet before they all fell off. Go ahead. This is something new for us. It was requested by a school district last year to bring this part on. We debated whether to do this, but then we decided we could make it a learning experience. We're going to show you what rifles since World War I. This is a World War I rifle. It's a single shot. You had to cock it with a bolt. Very heavy rifle. And before I go any farther, none of this stuff works, okay? It's all taken care of. This is a 1903. This rifle here is a World War II model. Go ahead, you can use it. I can't hold it and do this. It's a multi-gun. It's got 7 shells in there. You can pull it, and you pull it one at a time, and it goes off. This is World War II and the beginning of the Korean War. This is the M14. The M14 was used in Korea in the beginning of the Vietnam. This was a semi-automatic and automatic rifle. In other words, it would shoot, and you hold the trigger down, and it just fires. It wasn't a bad weapon. We used that a little bit. This is the weapon of most people in Vietnam, and still being used today. This is the M16. The M16, was fire semi or automatic. Very fast gun. When you pulled the trigger and held it down, when the last bullet was going out the barrel, the first casing was hitting the ground. If you could hold it down. Most of the time you had to hold it down like this. This is the enemy's gun, AK-47. A lot more durable than anything we had, and probably still is. Was made by the Chinese or the Russians. You could drop this thing in water or sand, pick it up, and it'd fire. Very deadly gun. This is most of you probably haven't seen these. This is a 12-gauge shotgun. Of course, it's sawed off. It was used myself. I used it when I was driving the truck because I couldn't aim, so I just pointed out the window and pulled the trigger. This was our favorite weapon. It's called an M79 grenade launcher. That's what the grenade looked like. You put these up and shoot them up in where somebody was sitting in the top, and that thing would have a kill range of 100 feet in a circle. We liked this. It was a simple gun. You just folded it like a single-shot shotgun, and it shot. That's pretty much all but one thing, and I don't know where the 45 is. Okay, go ahead, guys. I'll get to that later. Okay, one of the things we like to discuss and tell you is whenever you see anybody with something on, a hat or a shirt or whatever, well, just walk up and say thank you. That's all they want. Somebody to say thank you to them. Don't have to say any more. Just say thank you. How many of you know somebody that was, is, or whatever in the military? Raise your hand, please. Most of you. Most of you know. So you got a lot of people to say thank you to. They just like to hear that word. If you can read this, thank your teacher. If you're reading it in English, thank a veteran. Reason being, if we didn't do what we did, or all veterans didn't do what we did, you may be talking Chinese, Japanese, German, Vietnamese, or some other language because we didn't go and defend our country. Okay. I'm going to get one other military volunteer here. That's the way it goes with this performance. You. Up those stairs over there. We're going to see. He looked awful sleepy to me. So we're going to show him what we slept on if we were back at the base. We were, unlike the Air Force, we didn't have feather beds. Oh, maybe it wasn't feather beds, but they had beds and hooch maids and everything else. If we weren't sleeping in the field on the ground, this is what we got to sleep on. Oh, yes, isn't that comfy? Why did we have something to cover up with? Reason being the mosquitoes over there are about the size of sparrows. So you better cover up because the bugs would bite you. That's the only reason you covered up. You always, when you were able to sleep, no matter if you were in the field or back at your base, the VC and the North Vietnamese loved to attack at night. They did most of their fighting at night, so you're just now got nicely to sleep. Now you got to jump up. So you had your helmet with you, which doubled as your pillow. Nice, soft. You heard of my pillow? This is his pillow. Is that nice and soft? Give him the soft side. There's the soft side there. All right. Nice and soft there, huh? You never were far away from your boots if you were back at the base because you never knew when they were going to get attacked. You never stored your boot upright like that. Reason being, you had to jump up instantly and grab your boots and shove your foot in them. Now, over in Vietnam, like I said, there's lots of creepy crawlies. So if you stored your boot like that, something would normally be there that you didn't like. And all of a sudden, you'd have this thing that would crawl or jump out on you called Frank. Frank's our scorpion. If you left your boots upright and you jumped up and jammed your foot in there, that scorpion's in the bottom of there. You get it right in the bottom of the foot. You only did that once if you lived through it. You had to get some kind of treatment right away. Why did he sleep with his gun? Because we knew where our gun was at all times. All right, now you ready to go to sleep up there? You must have went to sleep. All right, well, we'll let him get up so he doesn't have to stay up there all covered up. I'll bring this young man down here. I'm sweating and he's got a coat on. Phew. We want you to have one of our special flags for embarrassing you. And you can have this and give it to a significant other or your mother or whoever you want to wear it. Give them a hand for helping out. I know most of you have closets and probably dressers. How would you like to put everything you own in that? That's called, depending on what branch of service you're in, it's a duffel bag, a sea bag, a duty bag. But they're all the same, and everything you owned had to go in that bag. I guarantee I can look through here, and I know you're not getting your stuff in there. No way. Go ahead. All right, we got some uniforms over here of the era. Also up here we have added these mannequins. We have one for each branch of the service Starts out with Coast Guard, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Army, and at the very end we have a young Marine female, and on the very, very end is our enemy, the VC. This uniform here, most of these uniforms belong to guys here. This one belongs to somebody that's here. Now, don't laugh, okay? Who do you think this is? Do you think I could get into this? I tried getting my leg in the top, and they wouldn't even put, my leg wouldn't fit. So that's what happens to you. Now, this has got another story. This belongs to somebody here. He tried to tell me he could fit in it. And I looked at him, and I looked at the shirt, and I said, not unless you put bungee cords between the buttons. Because it's never going on, right, John? I want you to do, he usually does, tries to hold his breath, but then he falls over. This belongs to one of our members who isn't here. This is an Army uniform. He was a master sergeant, and he made a career out of the Army. So that's kind of the uniforms that you wore. During the Vietnam War, there were 265,000 women that served in the military worldwide. 11,000 volunteered for the Vietnam duty. Volunteered. Nobody told them they had to go there. 9,000 were nurses. The rest were clerical, because at that time, that's the only thing they could do. They wouldn't let them do anything else. Now you can go in the military if you like and get educated, do whatever job you like, from flying airplanes to being a combat person. During the 8 died from their combat wounds trying to save other Marines or Army or whatever. This is a picture of those arriving into Vietnam, and this is what happened after they got to the surgical hospitals, where Doc pointed it out to you. That was Buildings is a group that worked at surgical hospital. This is our enemy. We call the first one Charlie, VC, and many names, but that's what we mostly call them. The first one is the North Vietnamese regular. In other words, he was in a uniform. And the third one was an officer that was in a uniform. And, of course, the third one there is a VC, we call him, Victor Charlie. Okay, this is where we're going to ask you for help. We present this to a lot of elementary students. And in doing that, we found that a lot of them still believe these things are real because of those. Because this is the Claymore, and it's inside, it is in one of those VCR, boy am I old, one of those tapes, disc, whatever they are. This is, again, doesn't work, but it's a Claymore mine. I will guarantee you, if I put one in the middle, I might have to put 2. There's 750 ball bearings in one of these. If I detonated these, I doubt very seriously anybody in this room would get up. Unlike what happens in that tape where one guy goes down and then he gets up and crawls away. That's not reality. So we're trying to teach the young people to be safe with stuff, because there are still some of these out there people brought home for souvenirs, and heaven forbid if you pick the stuff up. Most of it's so unstable that it might go off in your hands. Yeah, you'll find that we're still finding grenades, the old-fashioned grenades and everything, and it's really bad. Anyway, I like to teach them about reality, and I picked it up where it is. Reality versus games. In my hand, I have a piece of shrapnel. It's a casing off an RPG, which is a rocket-propelled grenade. I pulled this piece of shrapnel out of my truck in 1970. It was about 6 inches underneath my butt. That's how close it was. If it had hit me, or it hits John, it comes at about 200 miles an hour. If it goes like this, John goes home without an arm. If it's coming at 200 miles an hour and goes here, John's going home in a bag. That's reality. You need to make sure they know the difference between a game and what really is real. We ask you to do that because you're older, you understand it, and it's just terrible that we have those out there without somebody telling them that they're just a game that doesn't make sense. The enemy was really into booby traps. What you're seeing, I need some help over here. These are punji sticks. They would bury these punji sticks in the ground with about 2 inches out of the showing. Then they put some leaves over, and you come walking down through the base or wherever it was, and you step on these things. Well, now you're impaled your foot on all these sticks, and you're saying, so what? You got a few holes in your foot. Well, they soon found out how to make them poison. They urinated on them, and they defecated on them so that they were made poison. So when you step on them, you had poison in your system automatically. Very short time before you had to get to a doctor, you were going to lose your life or your foot. So the government said, okay, we're going to put a steel shank from the beginning to the end, the toe to the heel. So that helped. Now we step on them, we didn't get anything but break off the tops. But what did Charlie do? That's the VC, Charlie. He would tie these bamboo things up in a tree where he had a limb he could pull back. Then he put a tripwire across the trail or around the base. Ralph would come walking along, trip the wire, and there's what happened. That was worse than stepping on it. But that was one of their weapons. This picture is one of the worst things you could get involved in. That's what we call a tiger trap. Dug a hole, put these bamboo in there, sharpened them up, urinated on them, whatever, and you fell in there. More than likely you weren't getting up. You were in there for the duration. This has got to be the worst job in the military. The worst job in the military. In Vietnam, anyways. This is called tunnel rat. Usually what happened with the tunnel rat is the smallest guy possible was picked and said, just like I've been doing, you're it. You're going down these tunnels all by yourself with a 45 and a flashlight. Now, go ahead, turn to the next slide. This is what their tunnel system looked like. So you can imagine you came down the main tunnel, and you could see that when you popped up a tunnel, you could be popping up into an operating room, a sleeping place for the enemy. So when they came up out of that hole like this, they would shine their flashlight first, hoping it would draw fire. If that didn't draw any fire, then they'd pull their 45 up, and they'd lift their head up and hope that they weren't waiting for them to come up. Very, very dangerous job. You had to find one of them rooms because you couldn't turn around in the tunnel. Terrible, terrible job. Go ahead. This picture is one of our guys who has passed away now. Passed away of Agent Orange about 2 years ago. He's the tallest guy in the back to the right. He was in charge of this group. If you'll notice, there looks like there's American Indians in there. They were called Montagnards. They were a very primitive tribe, and they were very friendly, and they helped us a lot. And for that, they were tortured and killed by the North Vietnamese and the VC. But just to show you, I brought this back from Vietnam. It's an actual Montagnard child's bow. It has the bamboo arrow. And no, we made it so it won't fire, but it used to actually work. Go ahead. 15 minutes after this group left the Montagnards, 2 guys were killed that you just see in the picture up there. They were ambushed, and this is what's called a field memorial. You stick the rifle in the ground, put their helmet on the rifle, and say a few prayers and move on. I just want you to look at this. I'm not going to go through all of it. This is how many people actually helped us when we were in Vietnam. Not a lot. If you figure out how long we were there and how many people we had in Vietnam. Go ahead. Okay. I'm going to tell you about fast food. I'm sure you all love fast food. This is what the military gave us for fast food. Right here. This is about as fast as you can get. They're called C rations. They were made in 1945. Think about that. This stuff was made in 1945. I'll just use myself. In 1970, they gave it to me to eat. You want to eat something that's 25, 30 years old? Well, it probably wasn't no good in 1945, my guess is. This is your main entree, right here. This is what you got to eat. This happens to be a supper entree. It's spaghetti with beef chunks. Yuck. It had about a quarter-inch of fat on top. If you're lucky, you could cook it and get it off. If not, you had to scrape it off. But it was not very good. Also in there, you would have crackers, 25-year-old crackers, kind of powdery. And we used to take our jam or jelly and open both of them, put it in and mix it up and make it like a spoon-type food. What does that look like? Does it look like a hockey puck? This is what we used to call John Wayne peanut butter. You probably would more relate to The Rock or somebody. You open this peanut butter up, put it up here. You couldn't spread it. You had to eat it like beef jerky. Nasty. Now, there's only one person I've met, again, that's strange enough that he still likes this stuff, and that's John. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be talking about John a lot. Him and I are actually friends, but he's weird, I'm telling you. If you like that stuff and you like Nook Mon, there's something wrong with you. But this was one of the important things in the whole pack right here. You got this usually in the midday meal. You might want to make sure you use it sparingly because this is 25-year-old or better toilet paper. That's all you got. You know what paper is like at 25 years old? Kind of dry, and when you use it, it all just wads up. And you and leaves became very friendly. Go ahead. How did we get into this wonderful stuff? Usually around your dog tag, you had a thing that was called a P38. A P38, the government put numbers on everything. You know, 1903, M1, M14. This is a P38. Why in the world they didn't call it a can opener, I have no idea. Because that's what it is. It's just a can opener. They work great. If you ever get a chance to get one, get it. Open any kind of can you can think of. Why did they call it a P38, we ask? Their contention was it took 38 revolutions to open a can. So that's why they called it a P38. Other than John, I have no idea who would have counted 38 turns to see if they could get into that nasty stuff. But that's why that is a P38. Does it look like anybody up here, except maybe that guy in the far right, is happy about eating this stuff? I think the guy in the far right must have gas or something making him smile. I'm not sure. You can see there's no place to heat it, so they're probably eating it cold. And not too happy about that. This picture has two things that it means. One is we're trying to talk about communication. Communication from Vietnam was like nothing. It took 3 weeks to get a letter from Vietnam home, and vice versa. I'll give you a for instance. My base was overrun. 9 people were killed. The next night, on the nightly news, my mom and dad tell me it was on. They did not know for 3 weeks whether I was alive, dead, wounded, or whatever. So sometimes it's harder on the people that are home than the people that are actually there doing it. But it took so long because we didn't have all those modern things you have now to communicate. There wasn't cell phones. We couldn't call. There wasn't anything. Also, this picture reminded me of my mom so much I asked him to put it in. My mom had that kind of phone. She had a 14-foot cord on it, and I swear she could get all over half the house. And she'd walk around talking like that. But what got me was when I came back from the service, I finally found out what this was. Before I went into service, all I thought it was for hitting me in the head or the butt or something for doing something bad. But it's actually a serving spoon. And I didn't know that. This is a fellow writing a letter home. He's in a blowed-out building, just taking a moment to do what he wants to do to get a letter home. This is how it had to go in this particular envelope. The government let us send it for free. I'm sure they love that. Go ahead. This is how long we were involved in Vietnam, 20 years. Cost $584 billion back in that era. The combat troops were sent in 65. The combat troops left in 73. 2.8 million military persons served in Vietnam. Average age was 19. World War II was 26. As Dwayne told you, you get drafted, and you're drafted before you ever graduate, you know what your life is going to be. You had no say in it. You either went or went to jail. 58,479 were killed in Vietnam. You can see how many were wounded. This is a shocking number to me, but this is all the wars that the United States has been involved in, and the number killed and how long the war lasts. But I want you to look at something. The Civil War. 623,000 Americans killed each other. That's a sad situation. That was the North and the South. But look at the bottom line. 1,360,000 lives were given for our freedom, your freedom, everybody's freedom. So somebody had to do that so that we have the freedoms we do today. Go ahead. We'll do that down here, I think. Don't turn your head when I walk up here now. Oh, you got volunteers. Is this your friend? Not anymore, he is. Get right on up here. He pointed right to the top of your head. No, over this way. You're going to be front and center. Are you strong? Not really. Well, we're going to find out how strong you are. We're going to dress him up in some of our garb that we wore in Vietnam. Now, I want you all to remember something. It was 100 to 110 degrees. Yeah, well, I don't think so. You have long pants on, and that sweatshirt might have to go. All right, we're going to put a duty belt on him. This particular duty belt, if you look up here, is 6 pounds. What we're dressing him with is not necessarily the weight we carried. Most of the time, they're less than what we carried. This is a flak jacket. You never went anywhere without this. Nice, comfortable steel plates inside. Weighs what? 12 pounds. This is a backpack like we carried, only we carry between 50 and 75 pounds. This one's only around 25, 30. Don't fall over. I don't have insurance. Okay? Make sure you stand up straight. All right. Now, I got to tell you a little story about this here particular poncho. This poncho was mine in Vietnam. And let me tell you, in Vietnam, when I put it on, it smelled horrible. So can you imagine what it smells like now? It's been laying around for another 50 years. He's trying to hold his breath. I don't know about this. Nice smell in there, isn't it? Smell like a dead fish or swamp or what? You still smiling? Okay, he's doing good. Oh, man, you're going to have to do that for me, Doc. Remember the picture at the beginning when I said that was me? Guess whose gas mask? Yeah, and it was rotten then, and it's a gagger now, man. All right, you're looking pretty good. I think turn sideways for a second. Doesn't he look like one of the characters in Star Wars? Ewok or whatever the heck his name was? We got to put a helmet on his head. So we're getting up there now. We're almost to 88 pounds. We need a ammo can and an M16. We ain't got no arms out, man. What do you... One hand there, and then an ammo can in the other can. Now, I'm going to tell you, are you still breathing? Okay. I'm going to tell you, we were going to say, you need to go on we're going on a 10-mile search and destroy mission. It's 100 degrees, and part of it we're going to jog, which we call double timing, because they're shooting at you and you're going to run. Now, do you think you can make 10 miles? Do you think you can? Well, we're going to ask you to go up to Ralph. Ralph, raise your hand, and then across and over to John, and then back to me. Now, your classmates are going to cheer you on, but please don't fall down again. All right, go that way and let's see how quick you can do this. Come on, man, they're shooting at you. Come on, look out now. I don't fall down coming down the hill. You're coming down the hill. Look out for the mines. There he is. I don't know what he looks like when they take this off. He may be green. I don't know. But that is some of the stuff. Did we wear it all at the same time? No. The poncho was mostly used to cover up with or lay on because you were already wet and you didn't really care. The flag jacket, yes. The duty belt, yes. So it was heavy enough and it was hot enough. And you see, he's not smiling anymore. Does that give you a hint? It's.
Yeah.
When we do elementary schools, we take the weights out of the back of the backpack because they fall over backwards. Now, you'll always pay attention when you're in assembly, right? Huh? Maybe you better pick a better friend. And that's for you or your significant other or your mom or somebody. Or maybe your teacher. You want to give it to your teacher and get some brownie points. I don't know. Give him a hand for helping us. Okay, this is a map. As you well can see, most all of us that went on the ground in Vietnam left from California, flew to Japan, and then on to Vietnam, about a 16 to 18-hour trip. Very much of a culture shock when you got off the airplane. I got off in the winter back in the United States, so I had to wear the winter uniform was wool, like that thing I had over there. I got off the airplane, it was 100 degrees, smelled like a swamp, and I'm standing in a wool uniform. I thought I was going to die before I could get into the fatigues. But that's how far away we were from home, and a lot of us never had left Michigan, let alone any place else. Just a comparison, square miles of Vietnam, 127,000, where California is 158. But look at the difference in the population. There was lots and lots of people jammed into small areas in Vietnam like Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, some around Da Nang. But most of them were spread out thin, so it was a lot of people in small areas. Go ahead. Oh, what did we do for fun? Well, that's a joke. What did we do for fun? We dug holes and filled sandbags. And we dug more holes and filled more sandbags. This is called a trenching tool. The trenching tool tripled as three different things. One, you open it up, use it for a shovel, put it in your trash or your sandbag. Two, you would latch it down like this and use it to dig trenches. And three, it made a mighty fine weapon. Now, why did we fill sandbags? Because it was supposed to protect us. Sandbags weigh around 75 to 100 pounds unless they're wet. But we had to be careful. That's how come when you came back from Vietnam, you weighed about 20, 30 pounds. John, will you be careful? The last time you do this. What do you think? Is this volleyball or what? Give her a flag. I mean, she turned all colors. Her face turned green. Now who's got the flag? Give that young lady a flag and a whatever. You got both? All right. Thanks. We didn't mean to scare you. Give her a hand. But, we do that so we can have some fun. All right. This is a fire base. Fire base out in the hills. We have a fire base. If you have time when you leave, I would like you to see it. It's right here. This is an exact replica of a fire base. It was built for us by my 8th grade middle school student who goes to Western. He put it all together, glued it, painted it, and it's pretty close to what it looked like out there. We're very proud of him for doing that for us. Of the 2.8 million Americans that served in Vietnam, less than 650,000 of us are alive today. Approximately 425 of us are dying every day. We just buried one of our members 2 days ago from Agent Orange. Agent Orange is bad. Now, why do we talk about it? Because there are chemical companies out there right now trying to produce a product and get it on the market that is similar to Agent Orange. We don't need to kill weeds that bad. We need to get us some exercise maybe and pull the weeds. They told us that Agent Orange would not hurt us. So we didn't really bother with it. It was sprayed everywhere, as you can imagine, and if you were in those zones, you pretty much got it. I have Agent Orange. John has Agent Orange. Where Doc, Bob told you about him, and Ray. There's no cure for us. We just have it. Why do we even tell you about it? Because we want you to help prevent what happened to us to happen to anybody else. The worst thing that's happened is now it has been proven that our children could indeed have it from us, and maybe our grandchildren. You don't want that to happen to your children and your grandchildren. I went to the war because I went. They have no control over that. So that's why we talk about Agent Orange. It's a killer. It gets you. No way you can get rid of it. And it causes all kinds of nasty things. Go ahead. This is a, whoop. I don't talk that fast. That's how Agent Orange came, and all the other agents that they had, white, blue, purple, I don't know, there was a million of them. But when they emptied that can, they would cut the top out, fill it up with water. Maybe they'd rinse it out, maybe they wouldn't. And then we used it for shower water. So if it wasn't sprayed where you were, you got to wash where it was. Go ahead. This is how it was sprayed. You see anybody with anything on, any kind of suit, any kind of mask. And not only that, they're spraying it up at the helicopter, which is the helicopter then is dispersing it throughout the air. So when it went back, with that helicopter went back and Ray worked on it, guess what? It's covered in Agent Orange. You don't have to be sprayed. You just touch the stuff. If you get a chance to go to Washington, D.C. and see the wall, not only the Vietnam Wall, but all of them, but this is someplace sacred to us, and it'll be a moving experience if you go there. Let me tell you, I don't care. You will be moved. This is a Vietnam Veterans Model. This is a national model. Never again will one generation of veterans abandon another. Why did it become the Vietnam Veterans Model? Because when we came home, there was no parades. There wasn't anybody thanking you. We got off the airport, and as we were getting ready to get off the jet, which we were so happy we just left Vietnam, they told us to get quickly as you could, find some civilian clothes to get on, because you're going to walk into something you aren't going to like. We walked up the airplane, there were signs being carried, you're a baby killer, you massacred that, you did this. They spit on us, called us names, and the military did a real good job of getting us away. Because what those people didn't understand is 25 hours before that, we could have been in combat. We weren't exactly in the mood to have somebody spit on us. But while we came out with this, we decided, I should say the Vietnam veterans decided, never again will we let somebody come home to that, ever, as long as we're alive. And we've done that. We make sure they get a hero's welcome, and we take care of them if we have to. They are our heroes. They are your future. Remember that. Okay, Miss. You're who I pick on, right? You want me to come to you? Up here on the screen, you're going to, because by the way, I've known her since she's about that big, so forever, yeah, forever. That's true, it is forever, yeah. What we have on the screen is called a challenge coin. Challenge coins were designed about way back in the Civil War. And what it was designed for was somebody did a special thing, so they would give them a challenge coin. Well, through the years, it's evolved in 2 or 3 different things. During Korea and Vietnam, it became a drinking coin. If you didn't have that coin in your pocket and you went to a bar and somebody challenged you and you didn't put it down on the bar, you got to buy the whole bar around. So that's what it went. Now it's evolved into a collector's item. It's hard sometimes to find them because in our case we had our own challenge coin made. And we like, on the one side is our chapter logo. On the other side is all the military units. And we like to give this to you for helping us come here. Okay, thank you. All right. Yeah. So if somebody challenges you, remember you got to have a coin. So just go find one. All right. All right. We have about 6 minutes. Is that correct? Okay. Questions? Don't be bashful. No questions? Oh, come on now. You got to have a question. Where? All right. If you can maybe speak out real loud. Whoa, thank you. That's very nice. Hang on.
My question is how long after you guys returned from Vietnam, how long did it take for you guys to finally feel, I guess, comfortable enough to talk about what all gone on down there, I guess? Sorry if the question's too personal. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I was just curious. When we first, I went and hid just like most Vietnam veterans did. When we got to that reception, I went and got out of my uniform and never put it back on. I never told my sons until they were in high school that I even served in Vietnam. They knew I served in the military. Was I ashamed because I served in Vietnam? No, but I didn't want them to go. I thought maybe they would go through what I did. You know, I didn't know. Now I know. It took me for a long time. Actually, till we started doing this, I said, I'm not talking about it. I'm not going anywheres. And because I worked for East Jackson Schools for 40 years, I've been around kids a couple days. So that's kind of what happened. As I asked your question, it took us a long time to get back to what I want. Normal? I don't know if we're ever normal. But
why did they call you guys the baby killers?
Her question was, why did they call us baby killers? Because Vietnam was not a conventional war. It was nothing to have somebody about that high run up to your truck and throw a satchel charge in it. There was nothing for them not to run up and slit your throat if you were not looking. So, what did the news do? This was a news war. They portrayed us in a light that we really weren't in. We were just trying to defend ourselves and our brothers from that little kid that runs up and throws a satchel charge in your truck.
We were actually having to fight, teenagers. That's kind of why we got called baby killers. And once in a while, if you've ever heard of the My Lai massacre, that was one of, about 300 civilians were just basically massacred by American troops. So that got to be a big media coverage out there. So that they thought that all soldiers did that. It was just, isolated incidents, but it did happen.
That answer your question? Must be. Where we got? It was to kill all the growth, foliage around bases, along the roads, and they would make about 100-foot kill zone, which is called a kill zone for us to see, and they would kill. Let me tell you, I seen that stuff sprayed right on the edge of the road. It was sprayed on at 8 o'clock in the morning, and at noon, it was black. This stuff killed trees. It killed everything. So that's what they were doing. They would spray around like that fire base. They would spray around it so you could see. Of course, it never supposed to hurt us,
but that wasn't what happened.
What was I gonna say? Stop. So did you ever like want to quit? Because I know it was like a different living experience for you. So did you ever want to like stop and quit? Yeah.
I understand your question. Do you want to know if we ever felt like just saying stop and quit and forget this? We probably had it in our minds, but we had all our brothers beside us. And if we stopped, somebody's going to get hurt because we didn't do our job. Everybody is, the thing about service is you aren't I. Everybody has to be a we. And what I mean by that is if we had people serving in the United States, we had people serving in other countries, if they didn't do what they were supposed to do, we'd have really got massacred. No and yes. Yes, you were scared. If you're not scared, there's something wrong with you. And did you feel like quitting? Oh, yeah. But we didn't do it because we were told what to do, and we did it. We followed directions. That answer it? Okay. Oh, here we go.
Do you know what Agent Orange does to your body?
Yeah, I know what it does to your body. I had a heart attack at 38 years old from ischemic heart. That's been found to cause by Agent Orange. I have diabetes, which most of these guys that went there have, and it's getting worse by the month, I guess you could call it. I have cancer, and I've had cancer for 4 years. I've been fighting cancer. Doc had cancer. Bob had cancer. John's facing that problem. And it caused other things. There's about 5 other things, but directly related to Agent Orange. So the problem becomes is that you get so much, there's no way to cure what you have. Don't feel sorry for us. Okay, please. Maybe feel sorry for our kids, but don't feel sorry for us. We're a bunch of old guys that did what we were supposed to do, and we'll take what happens to us. Anybody else? Only got about a minute,
right? How did Agent Orange like affect you guys? Like, did you have to breathe it in or touch it, or did it not matter? It just affected you in all ways.
Agent Orange didn't matter. You could breathe it. You could touch it. If it was sprayed along the road and it got up on your truck, planes flew it, brought it back to the aircraft carriers. They got it. They just now authorized the Blue Water Navy, which is the big ships, that those people that handled that stuff would be able to get some benefits from it. I personally go to the VA hospital, and they take good care of me. But there's, as of yesterday, they said, we'll just watch it because we can't figure it out. So that's the way it goes. Well, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being so patient with our long presentation. And thank you again for East Jackson. I did also graduate from East Jackson. It took me more years because I came back and spent 40 more years here. So thank you.